Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Anna and this channel is all about sewing, costuming, fantasy costuming, historical sewing, theater costume concept and general tips and tricks around crafting. Today we're continuing this series where I try to adapt the animatic costume concepts of the musical epic into an actual stage costume concept. And I don't believe that I did this without a tongue twister. So, the first thing we will do today is having a look at Polites. Polites is a very happy and friendly crew member and also one of Odysseus' childhood friends. And he is very friendly and a little bit like a clear conscience of Odysseus in his first part of the journey. So we're going to have a look at open arms and we're going to have a look at two animatics. And after this, I did actually some costumes and I will show you a little bit further on how I would do Odysseus, Eurylochus, Polites and parts of the crew, and also the adaptation I would do on stage. Without further ado, let's start. So the first animatic we are going to have a look at is, and I hope I pronounce it right, is Yon Hara. And a small disclaimer before that, I'm not judging or analyzing the animatic itself. I'm just analyzing the portraying of this character in an animatic, and I'm also having a look there if the pleats and the shapes are realistic to the costumes and to reality, and how we can adapt this onto stage. So this is Yon Hara's animatic, and we see here that Polites has definitely a signature cloth and a signature aesthetic. We see him wearing glasses and a headband, and I think that there are also similarities to the singer himself of Polites, so that this might have influenced the look in the animatic. Here we see Polites wearing a cloak and also wearing a sword. So just how I already told, they're now on exploration. So they are also conscious about probable dangers and having maybe to fight. So that he carries a sword in this scenario is definitely something logically, and I would also do in the stage adaptation. What I would change is that he is wearing a cloak, because in the next picture we see, I will talk about that in the next picture, but also from the point of attaching cloth and cloaks to the actual fabric in itself, it's not so beneficial for the movement of the actor. And here in this animatic we don't see brooches or any kind of closure, so this is probably seamed. So this is something I would change. Also, we see arm seams here and shoulder seams. This wouldn't be accurate in wearing a chiton or a chiton. I think chiton is the right pronunciation, but I'm not so sure. And also with a lot of pleating, it's not so possible that the shirt itself is quite attached to the body and not too loose, and having arms, this is not too accurate. So there is a way to bind the chiton with arms, and I will show you also for Eurylochus outfit later when I do this actual on my body. So let's have a look at the next picture. In this picture we see a lot more also from the interaction between Odysseus and Polites. And now here is something what I talked about also in the episode before, is that there is a kind of a hierarchy between the crew members, Odysseus being the king of Ithaca, the leader of the ship, and also the third in lines, what would be Polites. So this should be visible on stage. In this, we have this swatched, because if we see someone wearing more cloth, it's usually the one with a higher rank. So the more easy, more simple folks, the soldiers, usually don't wear too much of cloth, because it was very expensive at that time to have clothing and to have multiple clothing, so usually there wouldn't be too much. So that Polites wears a cloak here is kind of a problem, because if we don't know the story and we are going to have a look on stage and we see someone who has a lot of things going on, like a headband, and the more we see, the more we assume that's the leader, and this might be confusing for a first-time viewer. So this is something I would change. And also what I talked about here, the shape of the shirt is not accurate to the Greek silhouette. So this is definitely also something I would change, so that Odysseus is having less cloth is the first thing I would change, and that they are a little bit more accurate in their clothing, so a little bit more antique. This is also something I would change. The only thing that I would definitely do there is them having their swords, and the signature of Polites having his glasses and the headband. So now let's have a look at Mircsy. She has also done something in the first episode, I think, and her and Yon Hara's channel will also be linked in the description box below. So if you want to have a look at that animatic, just click the link below. So here we see also his signatures, like the glasses and the headband. We see him a little bit more in protected clothing. So we have a chest plate, we have arm armor, we have his sword. So this is definitely a little bit more accurate, and this is also suiting to the situation they are in. What I like about that is that he is wearing this chest plate, and that we see a lot more him joking around and more of his personality. Here we see a little bit more of the complete outfit, and here also the thing is, we have Odysseus right after him, and he is really annoyed by Polites, and I love this so much that we see in his posture like a child that's having a tantrum, or just like after a tantrum that he didn't get. Yeah, okay, so we go on, and here now is the thing, this what he wears below the navel is definitely not happening on stage. I already talked about that these kind of garments are not protective for the actors, and also not very comfortable in riding the scenes, because there are more restrictions to that. And we see his kind of skirt. I don't know what this could be, because usually if you have a chiton, it is just straight at the hem, and here this is a little bit more like a fantasy outfit, and I like it a lot, but yeah, there should be something under that. Here we have a look at the leg splints, and I love that actually, that we have this scene here, and we have kind of the boots also here in the back at Odysseus, and this is a little bit more accurate, and I love also how he is depicted here. So now let's have a look how we could do this now with an adaptation. Now, if we want to create these costumes on stage, there are a little bit of difficulties. First of all, the trousers. I would definitely add these trousers, and I saw some of them yesterday, and I will also show you in a short, maybe in a few days, how they actually work. They are a little bit wider, a little bit like roost trousers, but they complement also the general silhouette of the Greek, and I like that a lot. When I now created these costumes, these are not full blown out sewn costumes for the stage. It's just a general depiction of how I would do this as a reference. Don't take this now as the final product. It's just something to have a little bit more insight to how my brain works, maybe. Let's start all over with Odysseus. So he starts with the trousers, same as everyone else. Over that he wears a chiton that is a little bit more gathered around the front, so we have a little bit more pleating for him. The back can be more tight or straight. There doesn't need to be too much gathering. From the fabric I would recommend some like a light cotton, but not in a full blown out white. I would go a little bit more eggshelly white, I think. Just a little bit of white, so that we have this light in him or coming from his body and his colors, but it doesn't but it isn't too much like a medicine cloak that is more attached to immortals and to the gods, and that's why I would go a little bit more on the eggshelly white. Over that is the himation, and I'm probably doing wrong the pronunciation, but if you know how to pronounce that correctly, let me know in the comments. This fabric I used is usually for something else I planned, so I didn't want to cut that fabric into the right width and length. So this fabric is way too long and way too wide, so this one would be definitely shorter in width and shorter in length, so that we don't have too much of this fabric around us and that it doesn't come loose. I would sew for this for the stage everything shut, so that there is no malfunction in opening, because it's just with a safety pin, and so this is something we would like to avoid. Let's skip to Eurylochus. Eurylochus has the same trousers and the same fabric for the chiton, but he is a little bit more strict and more attached to rules, a little bit more. We're having him wearing a marshallista, so this is the cord that is tied around the body, so we have sleeves, and I like this for him a lot. And I think this has a little bit more that he is bound to rules, so that he is multiple times tied with this cord around the body, so that he is a little bit more like tied also to the rules. Over that I would do also a himation that is a lot shorter than Odysseus, because he is the second in command and not the first. So I think this would be a great representation of the status. And for the color, I would also go a little bit in this color scheme, lighter than Odysseus, but not too pinkish or like rosé tones, more like a dark purple, but not too much of the same depth of the color like Odysseus. I don't know if I told this, but purple is the royal color, so this is also why I would have them wear that color. Eurylochus is depicted in the animatics with a big sword, so I added also that. There is a possibility for him wearing also a belt that the sword is attached. And what I would recommend also in the first scenes when he is on the ship, that he also wears his sword, because he is like always in this protective manner and mindset. So let's skip to Polites. Polites wears also the trousers and also the same fabric of chiton, but also in a little bit more loose draped way. So we have him with the off shoulder and a little bit with the belt, and also with his headband, and I didn't do it now to show you, but also then with glasses. And I would do the headband in the same color as Eurylochus himation, and I think this is also a very great way to show the relations of these three, because they are childhood friends, as we know, or how we find out later when there's a small piece of Athena talking to Odysseus about their past and their meeting, and there is also Polites. So we have this signature characteristics in the costumes for all of them. So Odysseus is the king, so he has a lot of fabrics, he is the brightest color. We have a little bit more lighter color for Eurylochus. We have his big sword as his signature costume piece, and we have Polites that is a little bit more loose, a little bit more open arms, and having a headband, and all having the same colors, showing their relation. Now coming to the crew. There we start with the trousers, and then we will have a little bit more individual drapings of the chiton. Here I would take another fabric, a little bit more sturdy, a little bit more heavy, that we see the difference between these three and the crew, because this is the working class. These are the soldiers. These are the ones who are rowing. So we need to see them a little bit different than the three of the crew, Odie and so on. So different to the color of the chiton from these three, I would go a little bit more in a gray-white. Not too much gray, but also not too much white and not too dark, so that we also see them as like the good people, because they have bright colors, they are like shedding light and colors, and so that there is a difference. Probably I would also add some of the chlamys, so like a shawl over that. Or a riding cloak that is a little bit more around the shoulders, so that they are warm, but I wouldn't add a himation, so also there would be this difference. So if we want to be a little bit more free with the scene writing and the choreography of the fights, and also maybe some of the dances, because actually you can do a lot of great dances or choreography in the rowing in Full Speed Ahead. This is a very bouncy music, and it's like, we can do a lot of that. So if we have the fight scenes and the dancing, and if we don't have a trousers as a basis that we put on the actors, the scene writers won't be too free to write the scenes. And like you see somewhere here, I showed a little bit of how going to the floor, coming from the floor would look like, and I'm apologizing for that. I hate fire scenes, and I don't have too much space here. It's just like one square meter, and so this is just to show how this would work and why there is a need to add those trousers. Now, we spoke about the costumes. Now, if there are fight scenes, some like these, we would definitely need the trousers, and this is exactly why. And yeah, enough of that. It's so important for the comfort of the actors and the dancers and the singers and also the audience, because if they're peeking out something we don't want to see, it's not good. So these trousers are important, and this is why I do that. Also, if you have rolling over the floor, you see it right here now. This is also something why we would add them. Okay. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and let me know what you think about it in the comments. I would appreciate that a lot. And until next time, if you want to stay notified for upcoming videos, click the subscribe button and the bell, and you will never miss another video. Okay, next episode we are talking about the first immortals, what would be the Lotus Eaters and Athena. And I'd add those two together because Jay has very specific thoughts on how he created the immortals and also the costumes for the immortals. And we will have a look at that, how we would achieve that in real theater. I wish you a beautiful and crafty day, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.